Ever wondered how the Israel-Palestine conflict actually began? This is a tale as old as time itself, rooted in claims and counterclaims, history and religion. The land in question, known variously as Canaan, Palestine, or Israel, has seen a revolving door of rulers and inhabitants over millennia. Jews trace their historical ties back thousands of years to when they first established kingdoms in the region. Their deep-rooted connection to the land is integral to their identity and faith. On the other hand, Palestinians also claim long-standing ties to this land. Over centuries, they have cultivated its soil, traded in its markets, and built cities and villages that crisscross the terrain. For them, the land represents their heritage and national identity. In the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire, which had controlled the region for about 400 years, collapsed, and the British took control. The British had a plan known as the Balfour Declaration of 1917, which promised to establish a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. But they also assured the Arab population in the region that their civil and religious rights would not be compromised. A delicate balance to strike, wouldn't you say? Well, the Brits thought so too. However, the influx of Jewish immigrants into Palestine, escaping persecution in Europe, led to increasing tension between the Jewish and Arab communities. The promise of a national home for the Jews sounded alarm bells for the Palestinians, who feared they would become second-class citizens in their own land. In the aftermath of World War II and the horrors of the Holocaust, the world empathized with the Jewish people's plight. The United Nations proposed a partition plan in 1947 to divide the land into separate Jewish and Arab states, hoping to quell the rising tensions and provide a home for the survivors of the Holocaust. And thus, the stage was set for a conflict that would span decades. The birth of a new nation and the start of a war would soon follow, forever changing the landscape of the Middle East. The year 1947 marked a turning point in the history of the region. The United Nations, in an attempt to settle the escalating tensions between Jews and Arabs, proposed a partition plan. The proposal sought to divide the land into separate Jewish and Arab states while keeping Jerusalem under international administration. The Jews, who were desperate for a homeland in the wake of the Holocaust, accepted the plan. The Arab nations, however, rejected it, arguing that it violated the rights of the majority Arab population in Palestine. Then came 1948, a year of profound significance, as Israel declared independence on the 14th of May. This declaration was a moment of triumph for many Jews around the world. Yet it also ignited a firestorm of conflict, leading to the First Arab-Israeli War. The neighboring Arab states, refusing to accept the creation of Israel, launched a military campaign against the newly formed nation. The war was a tumultuous period, marked by fierce battles, mass displacement, and profound loss on both sides. Yet, when the armistice lines were drawn in 1949, Israel had not only defended its existence, but also expanded its territory beyond the boundaries set by the UN partition plan. Despite the victory, the war left behind a deep scar on the region, creating a massive refugee crisis. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced, a tragedy that still echoes in the Palestinian narrative today. Conversely, the war also resulted in the displacement of a similar number of Jews from Arab countries, who found a new home in Israel. The aftermath of the war also saw the West Bank and the Gaza Strip falling under Jordanian and Egyptian control respectively, setting the stage for further conflicts. The creation of Israel gave rise to new complexities in the region. The birth of a nation and a war entwined two peoples in a knot of conflict that decades of negotiations have yet to untangle. As we delve deeper into the story, we'll explore how occupation, settlements, and nationalism have further complicated this intricate web of contention. Post-1948, the conflict took on new dimensions. The map of the region was drastically redrawn as Israel gained control of additional territories during subsequent conflicts. The West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem were among these new acquisitions. And with these territorial gains, Israel began to establish settlements. Now these settlements are communities of Israeli citizens, living on what is widely recognized as Palestinian land. They range from small outposts to fully fledged towns, complete with infrastructure. Here's where things get tricky. These settlements are seen as illegal under international law by a significant portion of the international community. They're viewed as a violation of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which prohibits an occupying power from transferring its own civilian population into the territory it occupies. Yet Israel disputes this interpretation. The establishment of these settlements has been a major point of contention, fueling the flames of the conflict. They've not only altered the physical landscape, but have also significantly impacted the possibility of a viable Palestinian state. Parallel to this, we see the rise of Palestinian nationalism. Palestinians, who had lived in the region for centuries, began to seek an independent state. Their proposed borders, the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem, with East Jerusalem as the capital. Palestinian nationalism began to crystallize around these territorial claims. Two key players emerged during this period: the Palestinian Authority, which governs parts of the West Bank, and Hamas, which controls Gaza. Both have played significant roles in shaping the political landscape of the conflict. As we can see, the period post-1948 brought about new complexities. The politics of occupation, the establishment of settlements, and the rise of Palestinian nationalism all added new layers to the conflict. These factors, deeply intertwined, have continued to shape the course of the Israel-Palestine conflict. The politics of occupation and nationalism fueled the conflict further. For Israel, the conflict has always had a crucial security dimension. It's a reality they face daily, with the threats of terrorism and rocket attacks looming like a storm cloud. Picture a country, smaller than the state of New Jersey, standing as a fortress in a region often marred by hostility. For Israel, each rocket launched from Gaza is not just a weapon, it's a reminder of the existential threats they face. Control over certain territories is viewed by Israel as a strategic necessity, a buffer against those threats. The West Bank, the Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, these are not just pieces on a geopolitical chessboard, but shields in the face of adversity. Military actions, often criticized, are seen by Israel as an unfortunate but necessary response to ensure the safety of its citizens. Yet, there's a flip side to this coin. Security concerns have often overshadowed peace talks. The quest for safety has, at times, seemed to eclipse the pursuit of harmony. Many have tried to bring peace to the region, yet it remains elusive. The quest for peace in the Israel-Palestine conflict has been a journey filled with hopes and disappointments, breakthroughs and breakdowns. Over the years, a myriad of peace initiatives have been attempted, with the goal of resolving the contentious issues that fuel this conflict. Perhaps one of the most significant of these attempts was the Oslo Accords in the early 1990s. This agreement, brokered by Norway, was a monumental step towards mutual recognition, with the Palestine Liberation Organization recognizing Israel's right to exist, and Israel acknowledging the PLO as the representative of the Palestinian people. Yet, despite the initial promise, the accords failed to deliver a lasting peace. Subsequent talks and initiatives have also grappled with the same thorny issues that have hindered progress. The question of borders is a prime example. Where should the lines be drawn? How can two peoples share a land they both call home? Then there's the issue of Israeli settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Deemed illegal by much of the international community, these settlements are seen by many Palestinians as a symbol of occupation and a barrier to their dream of an independent state. And let's not forget the status of Jerusalem, a city sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. Who should control it? Can it be shared? The plight of Palestinian refugees is another sticking point. What should happen to those who fled or were expelled from their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and their descendants? These are just a few of the many contentious issues that have proven to be major roadblocks on the path to peace. They're complex, deeply ingrained, and emotional, and they require not just political will, but also a willingness to compromise and empathize. The road to peace is fraught with challenges. Yet, Despite the many obstacles, the pursuit of a just and lasting peace continues, fueled by the hope that one day, the people of this land can live side by side in harmony. The Israel-Palestine conflict isn't just a regional issue, it's a global one. The world stage has often served as the backdrop for this complex dispute. Nations near and far, along with international organizations, have stepped into the fray, attempting to mediate and unearth a lasting resolution. From the United Nations initial partition plan in the late 40s to the peace talks of the 90s, the world has been a witness, a participant, and sometimes a catalyst. Countries from different corners of the planet, driven by an array of motivations, humanitarian, strategic, or ideological, have each played their part in this intricate dance of diplomacy. Yet the path to peace remains elusive. The deep-seated distrust between the parties involved, coupled with the multifaceted nature of the issues at stake, often hinders progress. The world keeps its eyes trained on this tiny strip of land, hoping for a breakthrough. As the world watches and waits, the quest for a peaceful resolution continues.